The Appalachian Mountains hold dark secrets. Some shadows watch, some whispers call, and some who enter never return. Brace yourself, fear is waiting. Ethan, an adventurous hiker, had always been fascinated by the untouched trails of the Appalachian Mountains. Ignoring local warnings about the Whispering Woods, he embarked on a solo trek into the dense forest, eager to experience the raw wilderness. At first, the forest seemed serene, with a soft rustle of leaves and chirping birds. But as he ventured deeper, the light began to fade unnaturally, shadows stretching in ways that defied logic. Ethan began hearing whispers calling his name, faint and distant at first, then closer, circling around him. He noticed strange symbols carved into trees, unfamiliar glyphs that seemed to shift when he looked away. At a sudden clearing, he discovered an abandoned campsite, tents tattered and burned, a half-buried journal revealing the fate of previous hikers who had vanished. The forest itself seemed alive at night. Wind carried unintelligible whispers, shadows twisted toward him, and his compass spun endlessly. Panic set in as Ethan realized every path he took seemed to loop back to the same clearing. He tried calling for help, but his voice echoed back distorted, almost mocking him. By dawn, search parties found nothing but his footprints forming perfect circles, as though the forest had trapped him in a repeating loop. The legend of the Whispering Woods grew. Anyone who hears the forest calling is lost forever. The story blends psychological terror, supernatural mystery, and the overwhelming isolation of the Appalachians. Readers with a lingering unease, an unshakable sense that the forest is not just haunted but actively sentient, a living entity with a hunger for the curious. Lisa, a curious college student, decided to explore the Appalachian backwoods on a solo trip. She had heard whispers about a mysterious cabin that vanished and reappeared at will. At first, the cabin seemed harmless, decayed wooden walls, dusty furniture, and an old fireplace. Yet, there was a subtle unease. Nothing had been disturbed in decades, but signs of life lingered, a chair slightly out of place, dishes on the table. As night fell, Lisa experienced phenomena she could not explain. Footsteps echoed above her, whispers came from empty corners, and the air turned icy without cause. She attempted to leave, but every door led back into the same room, the cabin's layout impossibly shifting. Shadows flickered in unnatural patterns, windows reflecting things that weren't there. Panic intensified when she heard a voice whispering her deepest fears, barely audible but piercing her mind. Time seemed to distort, hours felt like minutes and vice versa. Lisa eventually ran outside, but the cabin had vanished entirely, replaced by a mossy clearing as if it had never existed. Locals warn that anyone who enters the phantom cabin returns changed or disappears altogether, leaving the forest itself as the silent jailer. The story highlights psychological horror, suspense, and the terrifying uncertainty of encountering a space untethered from reality. It questions the line between hallucination and supernatural intervention, making the Appalachian Mountains a labyrinth. A fear for the unwary traveler. Lisa's encounter leaves a haunting impression. Some places in the mountains exist beyond human comprehension, and curiosity may cost a soul forever. A group of friends, seasoned campers seeking thrills in the Appalachian Mountains, had heard whispers about a cliffside formation ominously named the Screaming Rock. Legend said that as the sun dipped below the horizon, the stone itself emitted the anguished cries of souls trapped within. The friends, fueled by skepticism and curiosity, dismissed the warnings as mere folklore. They arrived at the rocky cliff just before dusk, the forest around them thick with fog and silence. As shadows stretched and darkness seeped into every crevice, an unsettling wind began to howl through the trees, carrying faint, agonizing screams. At first, the sound was distant, almost imperceptible, but growing louder, more distinct, echoing as if every stone around them were alive. The campers tried to document it, recording audio and taking photographs, but the results were distorted, static-filled audio, blurred images, faces twisted in horror. One of the friends swore he saw shadowy figures moving inside the rock itself, their hollow eyes pleading silently. The screams intensified, becoming more personal, whispers of their names, taunts, and warnings of impending doom. Panic set in as the friends realized the trail back to safety seemed to vanish, the forest paths looping back toward the cliff no matter which direction they chose. Suddenly, one friend disappeared at the edge of the rock, leaving only a bloodstained boot behind. The remaining friends fled blindly, the screams following echoing their fear and desperation. Locals later recounted that the Screaming Rock absorbs those who dare approach it too closely, trapping their souls in an eternal torment within the stone. The story blends supernatural horror, psychological terror, and the primal fear of the unknown, leaving a lingering sense of dread. The Appalachian Mountains, in this tale, are not just a backdrop but a living, sentient presence, a place where legends are born from the screams of those who ignored them. In the remote stretches of the Appalachian Mountains, an abandoned railway lay silent for decades. Locals whispered of a spectral train that appeared at midnight, vanishing as quickly as it came. Tom, an ambitious journalist, ventured there, determined to capture proof of the supernatural. As fog settled thickly over the tracks, he noticed a faint glow in the distance. The sound of a whistle pierced the night, a chilling, mournful tone unlike any normal train. Emerging from the mist, a steam engine materialized, seemingly solid yet ethereal, its wheels moving without touching the rails. The passengers inside were dressed in antiquated clothing, pale faces hollow and expressionless. Their eyes seemed to follow Tom, and their mouths moved in silent screams. Every attempt to approach the train caused it to accelerate, as if aware of his presence. He snapped photographs, but the images were distorted, the faces now grotesque, contorted in fear and anguish. The train's whistle echoed long after it had vanished, lingering in Tom's mind. Locals later explained that those who witnessed the ghostly train either disappear or return with a fractured sanity, speaking of conversations with conductors who no longer exist. The legend suggested that the train carries the souls of those who never left the mountains, trapped in perpetual torment. Tom's encounter cemented a terrifying truth: the Appalachians guard secrets beyond comprehension, where the past bleeds into the present, and curiosity can summon horrors that defy logic. The story mixes suspense, ghostly apparitions, and the psychological terror of encountering something utterly beyond human experience. Hunters in the Appalachian backwoods often spoke of a giant black bear that defied all natural laws. Unlike normal wildlife, this creature walked upright, exhibited intelligence, and seemed aware of human presence. A hunting party once stumbled upon it near their camp. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and its gaze sent a chill through the group. The bear whispered unintelligible sounds, low growls that seemed to form words in an ancient, forgotten language. Claw marks carved into trees nearby spelled messages the hunters could barely decipher, warning them to leave. That night, the creature appeared again, silent yet menacing, standing at the edge of the campfire's light. One hunter tried to approach, only to be met with a paralyzing fear that rendered him immobile. When dawn arrived, the bear was gone, leaving behind signs that defied logic: broken trees, clawed rocks, and a sense of lingering presence. Survivors later reported vivid dreams in which the bear spoke prophecies, often terrifyingly precise, and some succumbed to madness. Legends suggest that the black bear entity is not just a cryptid but a guardian or executioner, punishing intruders who disrespect the forest. This story blends cryptid horror, psychological dread, and the Appalachian Mountains' isolation, creating a terrifying interplay between natural instincts and supernatural malevolence. Deep in the Appalachian coal mines, many have disappeared without explanation. A group of urban explorers ventured into one notorious mine, seeking thrill and history. As they descended, the air grew thick, cold, and oppressive. Echoes of footsteps and whispers surrounded them, though no one else was present. They discovered an old miner's helmet lying on the ground, alongside a diary detailing encounters with shadowy figures demanding tribute in exchange for safe passage. The deeper they went, the mine seemed to twist and change shape. Tunnels they had walked through earlier no longer led back. Walls seemed to close in, ceilings low and suffocating. Panic set in as one member vanished near a collapsed shaft, leaving only a muddy boot behind. Hours felt like days, and their lights flickered inexplicably. When daylight finally arrived, they emerged, disoriented, and realized they had walked in endless loops, no closer to the exit than when they entered. Locals maintain that the mine is haunted by miners who perished underground, their spirits restless and hungry. Some claim the shadowy figures are manifestations of the mine itself, a living entity punishing trespassers. The story amplifies claustrophobia, psychological terror, and the chilling history of Appalachian mining disasters, blending human vulnerability with supernatural horror. The Blue Ridge Mountains are steeped in legends, but none as feared as the tale of the Witch of Blue Ridge. Locals claim she haunts the forests, punishing those who disrespect nature or wander too far. Hikers have reported glimpses of a hunched woman with glowing eyes, surrounded by spectral animals whose eyes glimmered like fire. One hiker, careless and dismissive of warnings, suddenly fell ill with feverish visions after encountering her. He claimed the witch had marked him, and that he could hear her voice whispering through the trees even at night. Villagers insist that time bends in her presence. People may walk in circles for hours, or days may pass without notice. Some vanish entirely, leaving only signs of their presence behind: a dropped shoe, a trampled plant, a faint scream carried by the wind. The witch is said to control not only spirits but the very terrain, warping reality to trap the unwary. The terror lies in her unpredictability. Her victims are never certain if they have escaped or remain ensnared. This story fuses folklore, supernatural control, and the anxiety of being watched in isolation. The mountains themselves seem alive, whispering a warning that respect for the unknown is survival. Hikers in the Appalachians have long reported hearing wolf-like howls that behave unnaturally. At first, they appear distant, as if from far away, but the sound seems to follow, circling around them. A group of night hikers decided to investigate, venturing deeper into the woods. Soon, the howls began to mimic voices, familiar voices of lost loved ones calling them, pleading for help. Each hiker became separated, drawn by the sounds, moving in opposite directions without realizing it. As panic grew, some hikers' visions blurred, shadows morphed into human shapes, whispering unintelligible words. Those who returned were traumatized, claiming the forest traps you with what you desire most, then punishes you for following it. The howls are believed to be manifestations of restless spirits, or perhaps an entity feeding on grief and longing. The story emphasizes auditory terror, isolation, and the psychological fragility of humans in the wilderness. The Appalachian Mountains are depicted not just as a location, but as a living, malevolent force capable of manipulating perception and emotion. Hidden deep in the Appalachian wilderness lies a pond, serene and beautiful by day, yet deadly by legend. Campers who approach too closely or gaze into its waters for too long are said to vanish. Reflections in the pond sometimes reveal places the viewer has never visited, or even people they have never known. One group of campers noticed strange ripples that formed distorted faces. One camper, entranced by the reflection, attempted to step into it, and vanished entirely, leaving the others screaming in horror. The pond then appeared perfectly normal, still and unassuming, as though nothing had happened. Locals warn that the water may be a portal, a trap for souls, or a mirror into another dimension. Those who survive the encounter are often haunted by visions of the pond, dreaming of figures beckoning from its surface. The story merges visual horror, supernatural mystery, and the fear of being consumed by an unknown dimension. It underscores the idea that the Appalachian Mountains contain places where reality itself is unstable and dangerous, and curiosity can lead to irreversible consequences. Legend speaks of a hunter who perished in the Appalachians during the 1800s, yet his presence lingers on the trails. Witnesses report seeing a figure dressed in tattered hunting clothes, silently tracking them. His eyes seem hollow, and his movements are eerily deliberate. Those who attempt to follow him never return. The hunter guides them deeper into the wilderness, often toward cliffs, rivers, or dense woods, from which they vanish. Travelers who glimpse him describe an overwhelming sense of dread and inevitability, as though the forest itself conspired to aid the hunter. Locals maintain that the phantom hunter is a warning. The mountains remember those who disrespect their boundaries, and past sins or trespasses are punished. Some say he is a ghost, others believe he is an immortal entity bound to the Appalachian wilderness. The story merges folklore, moral lessons, and psychological terror, emphasizing that the past is never truly gone in these mountains. Even when the trail seems safe, the phantom hunter may be silently observing, waiting for the next careless wanderer.